So continuing now with my tablet coverage for 2021, I'm going to take a look at two budget tablets, so under $150 US. And first up is this model right here. It's from BMAX. So I've reviewed BMAX's laptops before and they were pretty good, not too bad for the price, but how are their budget tablets? So this model has a 10.1-inch IPS screen, resolution's 1920 by 1200. It's a non-laminated screen, but I'll get into the screen details a little bit later on. And paired up with that T610 chipset, we have 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage, which is expandable. Now this model has 4G support, FM radio, GPS as well, and a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. So inside our box, which does have that Decepticon looking logo on it here, BMAX, you will find this, which is just a little bit of paperwork, our instruction manual. We get a Type-C cable to USB and our charger. So this one is rated to 10 watts. Charge time is slow for the 6,000 milliamp hour battery. Will take about 3.5 hours. So let's have a look at the build and design of this tablet. So being a budget tablet, not exactly premium materials on it. The frame around the outside is plastic. We do have a reasonably thick bezel on this as well. And this screen, which I'll get onto later on, is non-laminated. It does have soda lime glass on the top of it. That isn't really scratch resistant at all. That is why it does come with this pre-applied screen protector, which of course I will pull off the first layer shortly. Now on the rear of it too, you will see that we do have another protector right here on the back of it. And there is a 5 megapixel camera here and LED flash. Now the front facing camera is 2 megapixels. Here is a sample of what you can expect from the cameras. So as you can see from this quality and the microphone as well, that the video's not very good on this budget tablet here. 720p max on the 2 megapixel front facing camera and 720p maximum as well on the 5 megapixel rear one. So I'm sure your mobile phone will do a much better job than the cameras in this tablet. Now the weight of this tablet is about 500 grams, and if I do give it a bit of a flex here, I can sometimes hear a little bit of a creak noise come through from the build and the design of this one. Now the thickness is about 10 millimeters. They claim it's 8.8, but it is in reality closer to 10 millimeters, about 9.8 or so, the thickness of this one. On the left here, we have nothing with this tablet. So again, this is just plastic around here, the frame they have used. So on the left side, we have a 3.5 millimeter out, and yes, I have tested this. The quality is okay. A loudness could be a little bit better, and a minor, tiny little bit of static that I can hear coming through. We've got our power on button, volume up and down. Now these are made out of plastic. They do not rattle around. There's a little reset button right here. Type-C in for charging and data, USB 2 speeds only. And this is our single microphone here for the cameras and for placing calls if you were to use this for calls, which you can. And up the top, we do have dual loudspeakers, and just like the other Chinese tablets I've reviewed in the channel, budget ones, they're not that great. Here is a sample of them at 100% volume. And lastly, we have our SIM tray here. So this takes 2 nano SIMs or a nano SIM and micro SD card. So this screen is a 10.1-inch one. The resolution is 1920 by 1200p. And the brightness, I have measured 250 nits. That's where it maxes out. So anything over 200 is okay for indoor use, but certainly 250 is not actually the best, especially if you're going to be using this in direct sunlight. You will not be able to see this screen well at all. Now, it is not a fully laminated panel, so that means there is a noticeable gap between the digitizer glass on the top and the IPS panel below. When you look at it closely, it is approximately 1.5 millimeters, so the gap is a little bit larger than some of the recent tablets I have looked at that are also non-laminated. Most budget tablets will have the non-laminated screens because full laminated screens, higher quality screens, are more expensive, and that is why they're. So touch response is not too bad with this screen. It can be a little bit laggy. Now I have taken the first layer of the screen protector off, but I still have the screen protector on it because it has soda lime glass on this and it's not scratch resistant. So that's why I'm going to keep it on here. And you can see the blacks here not looking particularly deep black, are they? They're a grayish kind of color, and again, to be expected. So it is an average IPS panel. Now, if we take a look at the settings right here, which I'll also bring up, there are a few options that we can tweak, and all the stuff that you'd want in there is there. So the colors and contrast, we can adjust it. I prefer it set to warmer. I've noticed that on the standard setting here, if I can select it, if it will let me, there we go. It's a little bit bluish, the tint of this particular IPS panel. You've got the different contrasts options there as well. Now, there is no ambient light sensor in this, so the brightness adjustment is all done manually. You can do that from the toggles here too as well. So maximum, that is the 250. It dims down to about 20 lux here, which is okay, but I wish it was a little bit dimmer for nighttime late use, for example. So this tablet is running Android 10 and it is stock Android, so there's no bloatware either when you get this. And the good thing about the launcher being so light is that the speed of it is good. It's ideal, and as mentioned, the gestures do seem to be working quite good there. So one thing with the launcher, one little quirk about it that I don't particularly like is they have all the shortcuts on the right-hand side here for some reason. That's just the way they want to set their launcher up. And normally it's along the bottom here, which I actually prefer. So the phone dialer is there, text messages, WhatsApp and things will work with this as long as you put, of course, a SIM card in for WhatsApp and things that need it and the phone calls. And if you answer a call, by default, it goes through the top speakers and that single microphone. And the quality is not amazing. There's no noise cancellation either. Use a headset to improve upon that quality. But it's good that we have that option. There's also GPS on board with this one. So jumping in here to just multitask, you can see this is... It's okay, it can be sometimes a little bit laggy. I'm currently also reviewing the same exact CPU, which is that Unisoc T610, but with only 3 gigabytes of RAM. This one has 4, and it's not as fast. You do notice that additional gigabyte is helping. So you get around about 2.2 to about 1.8 of RAM free normally. Of course, you can clear it. You can do split screen with this one as well. So the performance is definitely not the best out there. It's not going to be a champion in terms of performance, but you have to remember the price of this one being under 150 US, it's kind of to be expected. Now, when you first power on this tablet, you'll be greeted with the following pre-installed applications. So there's no real bloatware, and I mean apps like Facebook, TikTok, and all this other stuff that a lot of manufacturers do cram upon us. So having a stock Android 10 ROM does aid the performance here, especially considering the low-end hardware we have with this particular model here. So they do have a wireless update over-the-air system. I'm on the latest firmware, and I have encountered no issues with bugs or anything like that so far. So you do have 55.23 gigabytes free on first use. And remember, it does have micro SD card support, so we can expand upon that storage, which is good. Now, just a quick test here of the accelerometer, which can sometimes be a little bit slow, but that was not too bad. The Antutu score here is nothing amazing, but 190,000 is better than the model that I'm still currently reviewing, which also has this chipset, the T610, with only 3 gigabytes of RAM, gets about 170,000, so we get 20,000 additional points here. And you do notice the performance is, well, a fraction better, and more with gaming, which we'll get onto later on too as well. So internal storage speeds, you can see, well, they're not amazing, pretty low end. Like this, well, low end budget tablet, kind of to be expected there. And this as well, to be expected on a budget Chinese tablet. You're not going to have a security level 1 for DRM, for widevine. So Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, stuck in standard definition, unfortunately, and probably forever. And we will probably never get Android 11 on this particular tablet as well. The wireless speeds here, so maximum you're looking at about 144 megabits per second. And the lowest point where I test 76, which is in line with the low-end chipset. So not amazing wireless speeds. And just remember, this is a low-end tablet, so that's expected here. What isn't expected, though, is the GPS performance, which isn't really good at all. In fact, I could not get a lock. I don't know what's going on. I think there's issues with the antenna on my model. Perhaps it is missing the antenna. I left it outside with an open sky for 10 minutes or so, and it just would not get a lock, and I gave up. It's not going to get a lock at all. No hardware compass as well, so very poor GPS performance on this unit here. And the battery life, so for a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, this is a 12 nanometer chip as well that's on this, the 8 cores. It does okay, but nothing amazing here, just over 7 hours. Now, if it had an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, it would probably go then for 9 to 10 hours with this. And as mentioned, charge time's quite slow. It's about 3.5 hours or so. And finally, I did do a quick test here. I could not get onto 4G LTE band 20 for some reason, even though they claim it supports it. I just could not get it to work with any of my SIM cards. And this was the maximum speed I could get with maximum 3G signal here, which is H+, so just over 5 megabits per second. and then just 1.45 on the upload. So rather slow, but at least we do have SIM card support for voice calls, data, and hopefully you can get onto LTE band 20 or onto 4G. I'm stuck on 3G with this model right here for some reason. And looking at our YouTube performance now, so we are going to have the borders top and bottom, as you can see, because this is a 16:9 aspect ratio video, but the screen is 16:10, of course. So the maximum setting that it does run with here is 1080p 60 frames per second. And if I skip ahead on this timeline, that it will load in quick enough here. So for this kind of use, light use, media consumption like this tablet is fine. So looking now at a PDF file, this is quite a large one. It's running okay. So you can see that at the pace I'm going right now through it, not bad. At your reading pace, not a problem. So it's not as fast as, say, a iPad. Certainly not here. Now, a lot of people do ask me, what is this app I'm using that is showing the page turning effect for PDF files? This one is Google Play Books. So just upload your PDF files to it, and then it is quite a good PDF reader. So double tapping there zooms in, and you can see the text there a little bit sharper, of course. Not too bad on this screen, but it is not the best, but we don't really see any pixels. Okay, normal reading distances, you won't notice really any pixels with this. So again, for this kind of light use, PDF files, reading, say, your magazines and comic books or whatever, it's going to be good for that. And this is an ebook. So eBooks, as expected, look good and no trouble there loading that in. Now with Google Play Books, you get all those options for the font size. You can invert it as well, so you can have the black background instead of the white, and then the white text. And you've got the eye reading, eye care mode too, built into Android 10. So that'll filter out the blue light. So it's better for nighttime use. It's not going to keep you awake. And then if I rotate it around, we can also use it in then our portrait. Okay, in portrait you can see there's probably a little bit better maybe than for reading eBooks. And lastly, onto our gaming performance. So that Unisoc T610, I'm also reviewing it in the KingPad K10 with only 3 gigabytes of RAM. And I notice here with the 4 gigabytes of RAM, performance definitely is better. It's a little bit smoother. So I have it set with Call of Duty on the low visuals and high frame rate setting. That's all we're allowed. So no max frame rate, but high. And it is barely getting warm, the tablet. I've managed to get 1 kill. And so far the performance is good. The screen sensitivity, however, I do need to increase that, as you can see. But looking around here and looking down my sights, that is fine. And really, it is actually performing a little bit better than I expected from this low-end chip. So there we go. This is a budget tablet, and as expected for the price, that it's not going to be perfect for everything out there. So performance is average. Gaming performance is, well, a little bit below other tablets. Certainly ones that have the T618 would perform better. But this T610 is performing better than the next tablet I will be reviewing, the next budget tablet with the same exact chipset, but only 3 gigabytes of RAM. I do notice that with the extra gigabyte of RAM with this particular model, that it's a little bit more smoother, especially when it comes to gameplay. And titles like Call of Duty, yes, playable, but it's not going to be the absolute best out there. Okay, so PDF files, internet, YouTube, general kind of basic Android tablet needs, this covers it. We've got FM radio there as well. We have 4G support, although I couldn't get on to 4G here. I tried 2 different carriers, 2 different SIM cards. No, I couldn't get onto 4G, so stuck on 3G low speeds there. Now the GPS is not working at all really on this model. It scans and finds some satellites, but I cannot get a lock. I gave it 10 minutes to get a lock and it didn't get a lock. So something wrong with the antennas with my particular model here, perhaps. Wireless speeds are, well, as expected for the low-end chipset. Battery life for a 6,000 milliamp hour battery is average there as well. So you're going to get around 7 hours. And then the build quality. So alloy on the back here. Give it a bit of a flex. It may make a few little creaking noises, and then a non-laminated display as well with this one. The display brightness, 250 nits. It's okay, it's all right for indoor use. Highly reflective because it's non-laminated, and yes, because I do have the screen protector still on it, and I'm going to keep it on there. But for the price it's selling for, under 150 US, I mean, that's really about all you can expect from a cheap tablet there. So the usual culprits, no Wi-Fi level 1 cert, poor cameras, poor speakers. Yeah, that's typical for such a budget tablet. So thank you so much for watching. There you know now the full story of the BMAX MaxPad i10 and all the pros and cons. Thanks a lot for watching.